The following takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It's FBC Radio Live. It's Tuesday. It's November the 2nd, 2021. That's right. Week 8 in the NFL is in the books, and it's trade deadline day here in the NFL. So there's a lot going on. We're going to kind of recap the week, look ahead to what could happen today, and of course, talk about what has already happened, including Von Miller heading to the Los Angeles Rams. But before we get into all that fun stuff, I got to bring in my guy, Mr. John Sapichetti, because his guy, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, has a pretty big matchup coming up against one of the worst teams in the AFC. So, how you doing, John? How's it going?
Good, Ian. Good morning. And it's not the Jets or the Jags or the Texans that he's playing, right? He's playing a team that right now does look like a pretty poor football team. And, of course, we all know we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, who will play the Packers on Sunday. And Fox right now is like, obviously, this is going to be the marquee game of the weekend because it's Aaron Rodgers against Patrick Mahomes. It's the State Farm game. You know, it's the 425 national game. But I'm sure Fox was hoping that Kansas City looked a little better than they did last night and would have a little bit more, excitement. Well, the game's still going to be a ton of excitement because of two quarterbacks. But yeah, you're spot on with what's going on in Kansas City. You've been talking about it more than a year. I mean, it's not like this came about the last few weeks with you. You talked about it last year, and a lot of people thought you were a little crazy, but you saw ahead. You are, in fact, the Bengali of the Kansas City Chiefs, even though you may not think of yourself that way.
Well, if you follow our friends over at Tally Site, and you should be doing that, you can check out some of our picks and everything like that. I was actually tagged as a Kansas City expert out of 384 people. I've correctly called. Well, I think number 9 or number 10. So out of 365 people, my winning percentage or my picks with the Kansas City Chiefs have been pretty much on point.
Aren't you the guy that goes on? You're kind of almost like the liberal guy that goes on Fox News. Like you're kind of on an island to yourself. I remember Mike Dukakis, who was the former governor of Massachusetts, very liberal guy, was the Democratic nominee in 1988.
Yeah.
Fox News will always have him on, and I always gave him credit for that because he's going into where he's the only person, talking about what he's talking about. But give the guy credit. You've been talking about Mahomes in Kansas City for a while now, so you're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, in this case, I didn't put the helmet on, and I actually won the Democratic or the Democratic nomination. So, no, look, you would think this is coming off another Kansas City loss. No, they beat the Giants yesterday. But if you came away from that game inspired or encouraged as a Chiefs fan or a Chiefs supporter, I'd love to know what you're drinking, you're smoking, whatever it is you're doing to cause this type of delusions. I'm pretty sure to get that level of hallucination, that's pretty much illegal. So I look at this team, and I'm not wishing failure on Patrick Mahomes. No, I'm not wishing failure on the Chiefs. I mean, there's part of me as a fan of a rival team get enjoyment of them losing. Sure. I mean, it's just how sports work. I mean, if anyone who's talking about a team that they are a rival of their favorite team, and they say that they don't care about. No, they're lying. They of course they want them to lose. But this is just me being a realist, and this is what I've said for a very long time, specifically when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, because what I was seeing wasn't exactly what everyone else was talking about. This ungodly talent, this never seen a quarterback like him, blah 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 blah. And if you notice, John, and this is going to be you're going to have to get ready. This is going to be a full show of me patting myself on the back here. No pun intended with the use of the word pat, but actually it was kind of intended.
Make sure you call him
Patty.
Very upset.
Big green man calls him.
Very upset.
Yes. I'm sorry, Randy, but anyways, no, I what I saw from this team was excitement, but also some looming issues. And we talk about Kurt Warner's been a pretty apt comparison for a little bit. I was talking about that, like you said, several months ago, because I looked at it, I'm like, okay, he's on a nice little path where he's had a nice start, similar to Kurt Warner. But let's see what Patrick Mahomes can do when adversity starts to kick in, because to the point in which people were talking, he hadn't faced any in his NFL career. He went to an
Mhm.
organization, he got drafted by an organization, a well-run organization. He sat behind a playoff leading quarterback, a former first overall pick. Um, and again, took over a team that was a playoff contender and had been knocking on the door for quite some time. That's not his fault. And if he had success, that shouldn't diminish his success, but it should make people hesitant to blindly anoint him this savior of the quarterback position, because we hadn't seen the opposite. We hadn't seen what happens when the team struggles, what happens when this team isn't that good, when this defense isn't that good, or when this team plays undisciplined. Well, what happens? Can Patrick Mahomes pull this team out of the fire? Well, maybe if it's against the New York Giants, they can squeak by, but it's a good team, not a chance. Do you think I know we give our picks on Friday, but do you think I'm giving the Chiefs a chance against the Packers next week? Absolutely not. I think the Packers are a flawed team, really good team, but flawed. I don't give Kansas City a shot in that game. And again, I know you're sitting there biting your lip because you're thinking I'm kind of jinxing your guy here, but the reality of it is I just don't see anything encouraging. One, we've talked about the defense. The defense is terrible. I mean
Mhm.
that's not going to change. You're not going to fix that overnight. And I'm sorry, by 4 o'clock this afternoon, you're not going to be able to swing enough trades to reshape what this defense is. The biggest problem, though, since offense does win championships, is you're not getting good enough offensive play in quarterback play. Too many turnovers, and I know before people say it, the interception last night, the one that actually counted, not the one that was dropped or the one that was thrown directly into a defender, but of all the ironic things to happen, John, was saved by a defender lining up offside. that just brings, just joy to my heart to see that scenario play out for Kansas City Chiefs fans. But the one that actually counted, the interception, you're going to sit there and say, "Oh, it went off the receiver's hands," and I think it was Lewis Riddick, and I was very disappointed. Maybe it was Brian. If it was Brian Greasy, then I'm less disappointed. But if it was Lewis Riddick on the broadcast, immediately talking about all the balls that went off his receiver's hands and blah 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 blah. I'm sorry. Yes, did it happen? Sure. But you know what I saw, John? I saw a kid jump up for God knows what reason to throw the
Right.
football. Why? Why are you doing that? Why are you creating a 10 to 20 times more difficult situation for yourself for no reason? What he should have done was set his feet, made the read. If it wasn't there, take the sack and take the point. Like, don't jump up and try. People want to, oh, he's playing hero ball. No, it's dumb football. It's dumb, and it's exactly what he did at Texas Tech. It's exactly what he did his first few seasons. He just didn't pay the price for it. Now he is. Now teams are waiting for it. I mean, good God! I mean, I just expect interceptions at this point. And even on that free play, I'm like, I think he's going to throw a pick on here, and he throws. I don't know what he was thinking on that one, unless he was like going for the Giants defender. I don't know what he was doing. So to me, I look at this and I say the Chiefs have a problem, a big problem. And I said it just a few days ago, and I'm going to really reiterate it today. Um, I think the Patriots are a team that have a better shot at making the playoffs, because I don't see too many more wins if all things stay the same for the Chiefs moving forward. I just don't. I just don't. So, I guess rant
Yeah,
over.
their next three opponents for the Packers, Cowboys, and Raiders. And the Raiders are a team that's, given the Chiefs problems. In fact, they beat them last year in Kansas City. Went down to the wire in a game in Las Vegas. So I think the Raiders are quite comfortable going into Kansas City and competing with them. You're right, Ian. I mean, I really can't push back anything there. And I kind of laughed at what you said last week when you thought the Patriots have a better chance of making the playoffs, because I expected the Chargers to play better and beat the Patriots, and I expected the Chiefs to play better last night than they did, and that didn't happen. So at least the Patriots have some sort of team that they're building there, right? They're starting to play better complementary football, and their defense seems to be playing better, and they're running the ball better in the offensive line. They seem to have some sort of at least game plan, and they have their issues as well.
Well,
They got to clean up a lot of other things
the
as well.
Patriots,
But
the Patriots, real
but you
quick,
also look at
real quick. I was just gonna say the Patriots are losing close games, but I feel like the Chiefs are barely winning close games. Like last night, they probably should have lost that game, but they squeaked it out. And there's been a few.
Right.
So they're both at the same record, but yeah, just kind of to separate the two. One, I feel like it's doing a lot of things positively. It's just the outcome isn't coming. Whereas I think the Chiefs are doing a lot of things negative. They just happen to be picking up some wins.
I just wonder, especially, because we talk so much about quarterbacks, that if Mahomes right now is just buying into his brand to the point where, well, I got to jump as I throw this ball, which is idiotic.
Oh,
of
absolutely
course it
is.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and Baker Mayfield buys into that brand, right, too. Let me go tackle the guy who just intercepted my pass, and then it basically ruins my season because I have a torn labrum. Like, you saw Brady throw up an interception on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing, if I'm Tom Brady or if I'm his wife or his coach, Tom, you threw an interception. Get the hell out of the way. There's no need for you to go tackle anyone. So, okay, you lost the game. You're 6-2. You'll be fine next week. That's what you do. You get the hell out of the way. You don't have to be a hero, and that's Baker Mayfield kind of playing into that. I'm a tough guy. I'm a blue-collar quarterback. No, you're not a football player. You're a quarterback. Step aside on that stuff. So I wonder if he's buying as a brand. Also, I'm going to talk about, and I talk about this probably more than I should, but as far as how you are set up in your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Brady, and a lot has to do with Tom Brady, but he's fortunate in that he has stability, right? I mean, he's got, 3 wonderful sisters who are all older than him. He gets along with them. I'm sure he has a great home life. He's built a nice, solid foundation. With Mahomes now, he's got a crazy brother out there on TikTok or Twitter who isn't helping things. I mean, why is the brother in Washington dancing on the memoriam of Sean Taylor? Like, I mean, that's just not good. And then his wife is crazier than the brother. She's constantly fighting with fans. The mother's on Twitter saying he's Patrick, not Pat. And let's not forget, Mahomes is still a young kid. I just wonder if he's almost like, man, if I had to do this all over again, I'd remain a bachelor and I would have my brother, like, maybe Aaron Rodgers is onto something. Don't talk to your family, right?
I was going to say, I kind of do feel bad for him, to be honest, because of all that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's kind of, and again, people anointed him. You push back more than anybody, and I push back too. I'm like, let's have his career go. And I think the comparison with Kurt Warner is pretty good. But Warner at least reinvented himself in Arizona and almost won another Super Bowl, and now is in the Hall of Fame. And I just think that when you look at Mahomes from a technical standpoint, he's not as accurate a passer as Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Oh God, no.
He's not.
That's one of his. Honestly, that's his biggest flaws. And to be fair, I thought Steve Levy last night and even Louis Riddick pointed this out quite a bit. And since we're getting closer and closer to the holiday season, just think of the Grinch and the big evil grin that he got over his face. That's what I was having over my face. Because again, this isn't. I look. It's an ego boost for me to feel like I've been vindicated a little bit with all the ranting and raving I've done over the last year plus. But it's nice to actually get some honest analysis of what we're watching because like even some of the passes and one of my biggest things, and we can go back to hours and hours of audio to pull all the instances up where I said this, but like my biggest thing was like even when he's completing those deep 75-yard touchdowns to Tyreek Hill, it's like all I'm seeing is Tyreek Hill have to do like a 180 to turn around and run back to the ball, and then he just takes off. But by the time he gets to the end zone, everyone forgets that the pass was horribly inaccurate. But hey, the end result was a touchdown. So who really cares? And that was what I was seeing consistently. And like to me, it's like I'm sitting there saying, okay, well, you have X amount of dropped interceptions. Now, it's not a real stat sheet. It shouldn't really count in terms of, if you're arguing MVP at the end of the year, but if you ignore it completely, and then you're surprised that all of a sudden he's turning the ball turning over the ball at a rate that's just absurd. You're like, oh, okay. All right, that makes sense. That should make sense. And that's why to me, I'm not surprised. I'm sitting there saying, oh, of course. Of course, he had 19 dropped interceptions last year. You don't think it was eventually going to catch up to him if he didn't change the way he plays. And clearly, halfway through this season, he's not changing. He is who he is. Like this isn't is the situation. And here's the thing: Is the situation around him ideal? Probably not. I mean, he has some really good talent on the offensive side of things. Like I said before, the defense is crap, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, you're not going to win games with this offense, anyways. At the end of the day, it's kind of a gimmicky. It's a gimmick. That's all it is. There's no depth behind it. It's just okay. Let's try to hope that this defense makes a mistake, and
Mhm.
they play, I don't know, single safety, man on man, and just try to see if they can beat the receivers one on one. No, well, that's stupid, and Tyreek Hill's going to get his. Well, teams aren't doing that anymore. They're like, okay, well, let's see you dissect the defense. Let's see you go up and down the field consistently. And again, we haven't seen it. So to me, I'm
Well, we
looking at
saw
it.
that.
Yeah.
We saw the ISO last night when they doubled both Kelsey
Mhm.
and Tyreek Hill, which is if I'm playing defense against the Chiefs, that's pretty much what I do. Let somebody else beat you, right? And again, have a controlled pass rush so he doesn't beat you with his leg. And he's not the runner that Lamar Jackson is. I mean, he's mobile and he can turn up field and pick up some yardage, but he's not generally going to take it to the house
His his
the way Lamar
best
Jackson
his
can.
best run was a result of his poor tackling by the Tennessee
Oh my
Titans,
God!
or the what
Yeah,
you know which play I'm talking about. The one,
the Tennessee AFC Championship
yeah, where
game where
they're like, oh, don't touch him, and it was just like he was crab walking all the way
well
down the sideline. I was
he
like,
he also does he also does something that is going to fight him in the you know what at some point. He has a tendency of looking like he's going out of bounds and he kept it back
yes,
in.
yep, and then
Defenders don't
yep,
like that. There's someone who's going to light him up, and probably will be suspended because he's one of the biggest guys in the league, and I don't want to ever see quarterback. I like Mahomes. I mean, I like him. I like the personality. He's fighting for a lot right now, and it's easy to fight through a $500 million contract. But between the wife and the brother, and I think that there's some issues with that. But I'll say this: when we're talking about quarterbacks, look at the touchdown pass Brady threw to Mike Evans
mhm.
on Sunday, right? I mean, Brady had his bad moments on
Yeah,
Sunday.
oh
Also
sure,
had a lot of good moments there. That touchdown pass was perfect. Like against Lattimore, who's one of the best corners
hmm
in football, he just dropped it right in there. So my point being that Rodgers and Brady, when they're hitting like 3 pointers, they're hitting swishes.
yeah,
With Mahomes, sometimes it's a bank shot or it hits the front of the rim, hits the backboard, rolls in. It still goes in, but give me the guy who is going to constantly, push the ball in because that's repetitive, and they're going to keep doing that with all their throws. And yeah, I mean, there's no reason to jump because what happens when you jump is now your vision changes.
hmm
Like the great hitter Paul Molitor always said that he knew he was in the zone when his head wasn't moving because your eyes are steady and you're seeing the ball. If you're moving your head around and all sorts of, you know, mechanisms that mean nothing, you're going to get yourself off that path that's going to make you successful. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think you were way ahead of the curve, and I think I was slightly ahead of the curve. That let's hold off before we call this guy the goat because the goat's still playing and playing at a very high level. And quite frankly, I no one playing today is going to approach what TB12 has. And
no,
again,
no.
you're a bigger Brady guy than I am. I respect the hell out of him. I think by far he's the greatest quarterback ever. It's not even a discussion, and he's still playing at the highest level. Like I mean, it was kind of a shock on Sunday, wasn't it, when he hits the ball back down one? I'm like, this game's over.
Yeah.
Like, how stupid was Sean Payton all of a sudden deciding to throw inside the 10 to, like, kill the clock? I'm like, you can't leave any time on the clock with this guy. It might have been better for Brady if he had less time.
Well,
He may have had too much time on the clock and he got a little.
and this is a nice little segue because I tweeted this yesterday that the Saints appear to be the NFC South version of the Miami Dolphins for Tom Brady. Now, it was tough last year, especially week one, to really put a some sort of a judgment on that matchup because it was the week one. It was week one. It was the first time that Brady and this Bucks team had actually
Oh,
played
yeah.
on a football field after the weird preseason and all that. So it was tough for me to put too much weight on it. Uh, in hindsight, it looks like the blowout in the middle of the season was more of an anomaly
Yeah.
in the big picture. But what's not an anomaly is look, Saints are a pretty good team, and I think that they're a Super Bowl contender? No, I don't. But do I think that they're a team that are going to drive a lot of teams crazy and beat
Mm-hmm.
some really good teams? I mean, they've already done that. yeah, I mean, look what happened to the Packers, and look,
Oh,
we're not going to get into the absolute hypocrisy and irony of Packers fans taking a victory lap over the Saints beating the Bucks the other day. There was a lot of weird, confusing statements made that made me think that people have a very short memory because, well, the
well,
Saints
they
did.
mostly do.
Yeah, well,
You're
I was
right.
going to say
People have memories
The
of about
Saints did beat the
an hour.
Packers
They're
this
lucky.
season,
Oh
38
God,
to
yeah.
three. So, but
Well, they do have a good defense, New Orleans.
Oh,
They've continued
yes,
to have
yeah.
a good defense. They can rush the passer without having to send the house, and they've got good defensive back. They tackle well, which I think is kind of an understated thing in the NFL. And I think if you play in Kansas City, you better tackle well because
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill can make you miss, and then he's going to the house. So I think New Orleans has that. But how far can New Orleans go without a quarterback?
Yeah.
I mean, I just like if I hear more about Trevor Simeon, I'm gonna take a pen and stick it in my eye. I mean, yesterday Skip Bayless, who we know how much Skip loves Tom Brady, made Trevor Simeon sound like it was John Elway that he was facing on Sunday. He's a great quarterback. He threw 30 touchdowns, 24 interceptions in Denver. That's not bad.
I agree with your criticism of Skip, but his buddy across the way there was not any much better on the flip side.
He gave him an F or whatever.
Yeah, he was talking about, oh, he can't even beat Trevor Simeon. It's like, oh God, I just can't even. Yeah, I can't even keep up with it.
I've always said that. I've always said that's the defense. And New Orleans has a good defense, and maybe Dennis Allen has some idea of how to slow him down. Because I think if you remember,
this is the thing, though.
Was it in 2016 when the Raiders came here? He was the head coach, and I think the Pats won that game like 16-9. I don't know. It was but that was early in the season.
But they didn't really slow him down, though. They didn't really slow him down.
No.
They just took advantage of some turnovers. Yeah, I mean, but Tom threw for nearly 400 yards, another 4 touchdowns, and look, this game is a perfect example. And actually, I'm glad I get this opportunity. This is a perfect example why wins are a quarterback stat. You're gonna be like, wait a minute, what? Bucks defense was bad. Their discipline is atrocious, and it could eventually cost them an opportunity to win another Super Bowl. But ultimately, that game was lost because Tom Brady threw a pick six. Yeah. Okay. Understand, folks. You might have just fallen out of your chair. Yeah.
I did. I just dropped my coffee.
I said it. I should have warned. I should have warned people. Do not have hot liquids in your hand right now, right before I say this. No, but the reality of it is, despite all those penalties, despite all that terrible play by the defense, you're a offensive touchdown drive away from winning that game. Now, does that mean
a field goal?
A field goal.
Winning. Yeah. So, I knew I would have bet whatever I had in my pocket.
Oh, sure.
Generally that much.
Sure.
He's going to just go down and I swear there might have been too much time on the clock.
No, there might have been. There might have been.
Like maybe if it was 45 seconds, it would have been a done deal.
Well, and here's the thing, and going back to my point of yes, this is why wins are a quarterback stat. Like, was he the biggest problem for the Bucks? Absolutely not. I mean, again, if you're going to talk about issues that they had, he's at the very bottom because they're not even in that game had he not played at the level he was playing at. But the point is, no matter what happens, all those things, turnovers, penalties, defense, this, that, the other, that game was still within grasp because of offense. And to me, his play. So not only did he have that team in a position to ultimately win that game, and they could have with just a drive, ultimately his worst decision of the day cost them a chance to win that game. So, is it fair that, he's going to get the loss? Well, I mean, he wasn't the worst problem for them. And for 85% of that game, he was just the great Tom Brady. But, for what it's worth, he did make a couple mistakes. And those mistakes ultimately had a bigger impact on the grand scheme of the game than penalties, than, undisciplined play, any of that stuff. So, yeah. Does it mean Tom Brady was bad? No. It just means that he made the wrong mistakes at the wrong time. And were they many? No, absolutely not. I mean, it doesn't negate how great he was for the majority of the game. But when it comes down to it, it's like when people sit there, oh, it's a team game. Well, yeah, it's a team game. But ultimately, it's the quarterback. It's the quarterback's play that dictates whether or not a team will win or lose. I mean, that's and that's just how I personally feel. And even look, even in the opposite situation. So losses. I'm not just talking about wins here. I'm talking about losses.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunate loss for the Bucks. Again, the way I feel is this team is like Miami in the sense that I do think the Saints are a better coach team than those Dolphins teams that I speak of. Not the current Dolphin. We're talking about the
Yeah, we're talking
Dolphins team.
about the
Yeah,
Saban,
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
those
We're
teams
not
in the
talking about the
2000s where
current
I
Dolphins.
I still swear that the reason the Dolphins would occasionally upset the Patriots in that period of time was because of Jason Taylor. Like
Oh,
that guy
sure.
just blew up their offense. It felt like every game, and he deservedly is in the Hall of Fame. It seemed like he was. I think he was. I think Tom Brady probably respects Jason Taylor, Ed Reed, and Ray Lewis the most of three defenders he's ever faced.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not. Maybe I'm speaking for the man, but I think he looks at those three guys and goes, "Yeah, those dudes were. Those guys were not only talented but smart and tough and all in." And I think those were guys that they weren't really intimidated by Brady, because you can't go into the game being intimidated by the guy, because then you got no chance. He'll just destroy you. But yeah, I mean, he's got to overcome a lot of nonsense on that team, doesn't he, Ian?
No,
I mean, the
yeah.
penalties. I mean, I was watching that game saying, imagine Brady and Belichick in Tampa together. Like that talent, Brady all bought in everything, and Belichick is the coach. Although the Patriots have had their issues too. I think Belichick's problem is coaching staff is just inexperienced, and Lord knows what the hell it's comprised of. But I mean, just picture those two guys in Tampa with that talent, that they'd be nearly unbeatable, because he's got to overcome a lot of nonsense on that team. I mean, what, they have 12 penalties, 13 penalties. They're the second most penalized team in football right now.
It's the timing of the penalties too. That's been really brutal for them. Like just situationally, they're just inept at times, but like they're being held together by Brady, really. I mean,
Oh God,
again,
yeah.
this Bucks team, as much talent as it has, is a 500 team at best with any other quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just and what people can't seem to understand is how big of an impact Brady has on this offense and how this team runs, and just being there, the presence that he has. I mean, obviously, a lot of that has to also is derived from his play, which is, again, we talked about it earlier. It's like, despite the loss, I mean, to me, I think he's still clearly the MVP front runner. I mean, the guy has just been phenomenal from start to finish, aside from a couple blips here and there. And if you disagree, then it's just, well, you're just what have you done for me lately? Because it's like, again,
right.
we mentioned the Packers fans taking a celebratory victory lap that the Saints beat the Bucks, but I'm like, wait a minute. The Bucks, at least, I mean, offensively, actually put up some offense against this really good defense. So what are you even trashed by? So, people have
Yeah, no,
very
Green Bay
short
was
memories.
horrible
Yeah.
against New
Oh,
Orleans.
yeah.
And maybe New Orleans is pretty good. I mean, when you look at it, they beat the Packers handily in Week 1. They just beat the Buccaneers. They beat the Patriots, who were 4-4. That was really the only game the Patriots lost that they were out of. Right? I mean, the other three losses, we're talking overtime against Dallas, a missed 56-yard field goal away from beating Tampa, and then a fumble away from beating Miami. I mean, so the only team that actually, came into Foxborough, and I wouldn't say manhandled the Patriots, but won comfortably, was New Orleans. Maybe they're that good, but then they lost at home against the Giants, because I told you, like about 3 weeks into the season, New Orleans is up and down more than any team I've ever seen. So next week, whoever New
You know
Orleans
why?
is playing, they're going to lose.
It's because of the quarterback. It's because of the
Right,
quarterback.
the quarterback
And
go up
again,
and down. Exactly.
quarterback
Yep, exactly.
wins are a stat, because as great as the offense, the defense has been for the Saints, ultimately it comes down to what type of quarterback player you're going to get. And yesterday,
Sure.
look, for to his credit, Trevor Siemian, especially when he first came in, played some pretty good football. Now there was a stretch of a couple drives where you're like, oh, okay, that's the Trevor Siemian we know, throwing
Right.
balls in the dirt and everything like that. But to his credit, he did make a few big plays, and they were talking about it on the broadcast. He was going to have to make a couple of those plays down the stretch, and he did. And again, you
Yep.
got to tip your hat off. But ultimately, as great as the Saints played across the board defensively and all the other aspects of the game, they don't win that game without some timely quarterback play. And again, once
Right.
again,
Yep.
that's why quarterback wins are a legitimate stat, because Trevor Siemian deserved to, quote unquote, win that game. And if they lost that game, well, guess what? He would have deserved to lose that game as well. So, it's funny how it worked out. Unfortunately for Bucks fans, they have 2 weeks to sit here and stew about the latest loss, or only their second loss in the last 12 calendar months. So,
Yeah, probably a good week to get the bye week, right?
sure.
They've got some injury concerns. If you can get Gronk back and Antonio Brown, and they got secondary issues. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But quarterback's the least of their concerns. He still looks pretty darn great to me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I still put him in as the front runner for the MVP. I mean, not only statistically, he's pretty he's creating a bit of a distance between him and some of the other quarterbacks in the league. He's still on pace to break the touchdown record right now. Not again, 17 games, take it for what it's worth. I'm not going to put too much stock into it. It would just be a nice number, but like I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, touchdown passing record. Well, let's see how 17 games plays out over a course of time and see, kind of
Yeah,
where we're at. But
he's got bigger fish to fry, as
yeah,
we would say.
exactly. I'm pretty sure he doesn't give two bleeps about
No,
that.
that,
I think there's certain things he does care about. To sit here and pretend like he doesn't care about, his like he cares about his numbers, but not in a selfish way. Like he's not going to sacrifice success for
right. Yeah,
getting numbers. But hey, I mean, if if it's there to be had, I'm gonna, he's putting some of these records so far out of reach. I mean, it's gonna again.
oh, career records?
Yeah,
No, no one, unless the game just completely gets crazy and all of a sudden
but even
6,000 yard
yeah,
season. I mean, but then you have to play. You're still going to have to play 14 or 15 years at that level to break him,
yeah,
right? I mean, like who's
exactly.
doing that? Like I don't like that's. I mean, he's put the numbers out of sight. I would think. I mean, well, I'm 58, so I won't see anybody really approach that. But maybe 20 years from now, there'll be some kid that's in high school right now who's just
Well, I mean,
maybe Arch Manning. Arch Manning is going to come in and break all the
yeah.
records of his uncle, his father, his grandfather, and Tom Brady. But yeah,
Well, it's like everyone a couple of years ago thought it was going to be Patrick Mahomes, but we're going on 3 years now where he's more
declining numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and he would, and I said this, and this is one of my things that I was going for before was like, if a quarterback throws 11 or whatever it was, 11 touchdowns in the first 2 games, this is based on 18 game schedule or 16 game schedule rather. Do you honestly expect them to throw 88 touchdowns the rest of the way?
Right.
And no one in their right mind would sit there and say, "Oh, of course I do." No, but is it technically what he was on pace for? Sure, through 2 weeks,
Right.
but that's just such a small sample size. Now, when you think about Mahomes' career, yeah, like he's had a great 2 or 3 seasons, but like in order for him to even approach what Brady's at currently, that's taking not taking into account what he's adding onto it. He would have to do that. Like, yeah, he would have to have that same 3 years, roughly 5 more times in his NFL playing career, to reach that level. And when you start thinking about it that way, you're like, holy crap. That's why it's so impossible for people, and this is what drove me nuts before, to project, like, oh, he's on pace. How can he be on pace when the actual greatest of all time is still playing and still beating him?
Right.
And it just that's what it made me, borderline going to shady acres. That's how crazy it made me.
That's almost like someone saying someone's on pace to break Barry Bonds' home run record, which is 762, and I'm the only person that knows that because I'm the biggest Barry Bonds guy. But someone is going to have to spend the next 20 years averaging 39 home runs a year to beat him. Like, who's doing that? Like, I mean, you can do that. Like, Mike Trout looked like he was on his way to that, but now Mike Trout doesn't play much because he's constantly getting hurt. So that's also a factor how durable Brady and Bonds. I mean, those 2 guys who I still find it incredible that they went to the same high school, not at the same time, but about 10 years apart. That's
something in that water up
something
there.
Going
San
on
Mateo.
there. That's a pretty good. Yeah, and Lynn Swan.
Yep.
David Bakhtiari, who hopefully comes back to the Packers this week, also. But he's like the ninth best athlete.
It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. You're playing the Chiefs.
You're confident. My God, I'm worried about that. I hope at 7:00 next Sunday I'm not cursing you, going, Ian screwed this all up.
No, trust me. There's nothing. There's nothing I could do to screw this up because I'm pretty sure Patrick Mahomes isn't going to figure out how to actually read defenses in the next 5 days. Because it's been 5 seasons and he hasn't been able to do it yet. So I'm feeling pretty confident about it.
Yeah, I mean, he still scares me. You know who really scares me is Tyreek Hill.
Oh yeah,
because I could see, he's the guy that kind of drives that offense more than anyone because he just.
Oh, he's the most dangerous weapon, quote
without
unquote,
question,
in the NFL. And it's the combination of the speed, the quickness, and it's like he's not a fast, tall receiver who, again, are they're great and everything. You think Randy Moss, like, who would just outman everyone. This is a short, quick, speedy, agile running receiver. So, defensive backs, yeah, you might have a chance to keep up with them, but even in your best day, it's going to be tough to keep up with them. Linebackers, forget about it. Safeties, forget about it. I mean, you're not going to go take him on one. At least with a big receiver as a linebacker or as a safety, you can get your body on them and force them out of their comfort zone. You really can't do that with Tyreek Hill. You're basically just trying, especially with the rules now, you're basically just trying to make sure he doesn't get more than a couple yards away from you.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then he can go up and he can catch a ball and have at it. He'll run across the field just to get it 10 yards forward, but that he'll do that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's by far the
He's,
most dangerous weapon. Maybe it doesn't mean he's the best receiver.
no, but he's
Because
the most
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah, I think he's the most
Well,
dangerous. 'Cause- yeah, go ahead.
he's essentially Julian Edelman with 4-1 speed,
Yeah,
right? Like
pretty
he's kind of
much.
stocky.
Pretty much.
It's not exactly skinny. Like you said, he's not this long striding guy. So he's probably 195. He's built like Sprinter.
Yeah.
Like 5'10", 195. He's kind of jacked. I can't stand the guy because of all the stuff that we've heard about
Sure.
off the field. Like I'm not a fan of Antonio Brown. Like those guys, But on the football field, we're talking about. Yeah, he's kind of like Julian Edelman, 4-1 speed. Like he's pretty tough too, and he goes over the middle, and again, because of Mahomes' inaccuracy at times, he's making some really great catches. I keep seeing, I'm starting to, you're starting to wear off on me, but I'm watching like the highlights of the game last night, the rolling left sidearm pass. It was a really nice catch. Like it wasn't an accurate pass. It was if was it the Tyreek Hill? Because it seems like every pass was the Tyreek Hill.
I think so.
Remember when he's rolling left and he sidearms?
Yeah, like kind of under, through the receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill had to reach way back to his left.
Yep.
And if he doesn't make that catch, that's an interception because there was a giant, like 5 yards right behind him.
Mhm.
If the guy could catch the ball, the giant defender, that's why they're back there. But yeah, I mean, so that's the part that, you kind of see it. And then we see on a weekly basis Brady and Rodgers making touchdown passes that you're like, holy crap. Like, it almost feels like you or I could have caught those balls.
Well, and it's like that's the thing too. It's like and I say it over and over again. First of all, I just want to say I'm glad I'm wearing you down, John. It's sort of like
I just
stanza.
give up at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Stanza. Yeah.
But by the third day, you
give up
just
at some point.
whatever. You kind of give into it.
Say,
But
fine.
but yeah, and it's like that's why it's like I sit there and I fight back at the people that have somehow come to the conclusion that running around is the most important trait for a quarterback. I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, it's at the very bottom of the list when it comes to skills and qualities that I'm looking for in a quarterback. Because if you're running, and again, a lot of people are starting to pick up on it now. Sometimes, guess what? You're bailing far too quickly, and you're seeing that a lot from Patrick Mahomes. And you talk about that pass that got people excited because it was sidearm and it looked cool and it looked like he was playing baseball. Crazy it sounds, he used to be a baseball player, so it's not that surprising. Again, it's inaccurate. Was it necessary? I don't know. Maybe. But just because it was completed doesn't make it a good play. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like it doesn't make that a good decision. Did he get away with it that time? Absolutely. But as we've seen, he hasn't been lately. And we've seen a lot of situations. There's an interception a couple weeks ago that, hey, he got cut some slack because it went off the receiver's hand. But again, it was that attempt at trying to throw the no look pass, which was completely unnecessary. Like when you go back and watch the play, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish here by throwing a no look pass? Set your feet, look to where you're going, and throw an accurate in stride pass to your receiver. And guess what? That's not an interception. But he throws a no look pass. I mean, you got to also remember too. I mean, these receivers aren't robots. So, like,
No.
if they're watching the quarterback's eyes and, he's looking one way, the quarterback throws the ball in a different direction, that adds difficulty to the player's ability to catch the ball. So you do that, and all of a sudden the ball is a little bit behind the receiver, and he drops it, and you're blaming the receiver for the interception. No, that's on the quarterback. Like, set your feet, throw the ball, complete the pass. If it's incomplete, it's incomplete. But don't create this difficult situation that ultimately led to a turnover. And you're seeing that multiple times a game. And again, like you said, even when some of these passes are being completed, even some of these big plays, biggest pass he made yesterday was I laugh at this, but that little handoff shuttle pass thing. I don't even know that went for like 15 yards. But even some of these completed passes down the field are just wildly inaccurate, and it's like you're sitting here trying to tell me that he's gonna figure that out. Like, there's certain things about quarterback play that I think you're just are football God-given talent.
Yeah,
Accuracy?
exactly. You're not gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
accuracy is
exactly.
one of
Yeah,
them. Like,
part of
you
it.
cannot
You can
teach
work on it
accuracy.
somewhat. I
You
think
can refine it,
Josh
yes.
Allen,
Yeah.
Josh Allen's kind of become more accurate, but I also think that part of his has
Well,
been more better
Stephon
decision making.
Diggs. Well, Stephon
Stephon,
Diggs made
exactly.
him
Yeah,
more
Stephon
accurate
Diggs
because,
does
like,
help. Yeah,
you've seen Josh Allen get the yips here, at times, even the season last season, and he, reverts kinda back to what he does, and that's kinda
right.
that high and wide throw where it's like, "Oh my god, what the hell is he throwing at?" Like,
Gets
you
a
some
little excited.
yeah, sometimes you can tell when it's an intentional throwaway. There's, like, certain body language, certain little ticks you can sit there and say, "Oh, yeah, that was an intentional throwaway." With him, it's not
You don't know.
intentional. Yeah, you
No,
don't know, and sometimes you're like, "I don't think that was intentional. He just threw that thing like 20 yards over the receiver." So, like,
it might be dangerous out
yeah.
there if you're on the sideline. Yeah, it
So
may
he
take
had
out
yeah,
someone's
so he
eye.
has a little bit of that, but, like, if you're an
Yeah,
inaccurate quarterback, you just can't teach that. Like, you can refine it, you can get a little bit better, but, like, you know, Brady was always an
yep,
accurate quarterback, so when he works on his mechanics and he refines his skills, he becomes an incredibly accurate quarterback, just like
yep,
Rodgers. I mean, like you
yep.
said, some of the throws that they make, you're sitting there thinking, like, what was the one Brady made where it was behind, the defender's ear? Like,
Oh yeah,
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 like
yeah,
that
yeah.
was such an absurdly beautiful throw because it's like not
Right.
only did it basically I think it was to Mike Evans, but not only did it basically dictate where Mike Evans was going to go as the receiver, which again that's
Yep.
something that doesn't get brought up enough is just that type of throwing, but it just
Little
zipped
guys
by
open.
the
Yep.
defender's head. Like,
Oh yeah, no,
like
no.
it was
I
just
told
like
you this passes
it's
Brady
absurd.
and Rogers throw that it's like I think I could catch that.
Yeah,
They also throw very nice catchable
yeah,
passes.
yeah,
Mahomes is more Brett Favre. Brett
yeah.
Favre
Oh,
used to throw
sure.
some passes. I'm like, dude, slow it down a little bit. You're gonna break someone's finger. Like like Elway used to do that. He kind of worked his way out of that. Those strong arm quarterbacks have a tendency of wanting to show the strong arm off. But yeah, the catchable ball is so important that guys aren't, you know, thinking they're taking their life into their hands by going over the middle. So it's going to be interesting, this week leading up to that game. Because Green Bay, look, Green Bay 7-1. I think with average quarterback play, they're 4-4. I mean,
Yeah,
that kind of sums up the league. Like you said, Tampa's 6-2 with average quarterback play. They're probably 3-5. Like
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, easily.
4-4. You know what I'm saying? So they do win these close games, but after a while of Brady, 20 years of it, it's not a coincidence. And Rodgers has been doing this pretty well for 13 years. It's not a coincidence. These young guys, and I'm glad we didn't get to talk about my man Justin Herbert because he looked awful on Sunday. And now, I do these comparisons of football players to basketball players. I'm just hoping Justin Herbert doesn't turn into football's Jason Tatum, where
Ooh,
he's just
ooh,
uber
ooh,
talented, right? Uber
ooh.
talented, but looks like he doesn't really care or doesn't really show much emotion, which is fine. You don't have to be, Brady's a psycho on the sideline, and we love that. But I mean, his the look on the sideline with Justin Herbert last week was kind of like, I know he's pretty chill, right? Like he's very chill, but there comes a point where it's like, are you even in this game?
Yeah.
Unless maybe Belichick had him so confused that it was a one-off. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and fortunately for you, we do not have time to really dive into that.
I know.
We spent plenty of time on our three favorite quarterbacks, and we love to talk about on this show. But I think it was
Mhm.
very good, and hopefully more people are listening and realizing that you would have been right there with us if you were listening to the show months ago because we are right on top
Yeah,
of it.
you're like North Turner, or
Yeah,
one of these quarterback gurus. That's the new thing
it's all right.
we're gonna call you.
I'm gonna don't worry. I'm gonna live this. I'm gonna ride this until I die. So in 20 years, I'm gonna write a book about how I was right about
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes. So
they're gonna
thank
take you out in a straitjacket at some point.
well, they were trying to do that the last couple of years, but guess what?
True.
I broke out of it. I broke out of it. Very Michael Scott-esque. Actually, I don't think he ever broke out of that straitjacket. But anyways, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Quick shout out. We ran a competition over at Full Press NFL, little giveaway, jersey giveaway, and our friend Thomas Murphy, the big green man, actually won. And as crazy as it sounds, I almost I almost spilt my drink when his name came back as the winner in our random winner generator. So there's no
Nice.
collusion. There was no inside information given. It was just pure coincidence that he won. So he has a quadruple XXL Patty Mahomes jersey coming his way.
Oh, boy.
Patty Mahomes felt out completely on his back. He is not getting that jersey. I will not give away what he's going to get. I'll let him do that himself. But I did want to say a big congratulations to him. And of course, that's it, actually. That's all I have. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to be back. We'll probably dive into more of the quarterback stuff and react to if any trades are made today here in the next several hours. And we'll talk a little bit more about that Von Miller trade that happened yesterday. So have a great day, everyone, and we will talk to